I mean, after having to drag Lisa out of bed and tell her at 6 o'clock in the morning, and it wasn't even 4 yet, and say, come on, we're going to be late, she gets up in a daze and she's starting to sort herself out. I'm reversing the boat out and getting us out of the marina, and it's still dark o'clock. I thought it would be light at 4 o'clock, but the further west you go, the less light you have first thing in the morning. This I hadn't worked out, but I had been working it out, but the fact that we got cloud as well just made it that little bit darker. As you can see, the sky is really light. Not quite yet. And to make matters worse, my navigation light won't come on, so I'm on my steamer and my tricolour to go out, which gives you the correct lights, but not quite the way you want them. I just hope nobody's mad enough to put a lobster pot somewhere, because I'm relying on every single light I can see to see where I'm going. And I hope any boats that are out here anchored have got an anchor light on. Well, getting out the marina ain't too bad, because there's enough ambient light, as you can see, just about to be able to see the boats around you as they slip past. Have you noticed there's a boat right in front of me? You can see the lights on it. I don't know what he's doing out at this particular time in the morning, but he doesn't seem to be coming in or going out. Maybe he's just moving his anchor or something position wise. But I'm going to have to pass in behind him, I think. You can see his steam light on the mast there, and his stern light's bright ahead of me right now. And you can just about make his port light out there. Not so easy navigating in the pitch black, is it? Oh well, it'll soon be light, I'm sure. It seems to be quite a busy morning. I can see lights coming in ahead of me over there. They're navigation lights. They keep changing from green to red, so it means it's on a collision course with me. And then when they get close enough to see, it's the RNLI towing a broken down yacht in. I have no idea what caused his failure, whether it was engine or what. Well, the further out I get, the lighter it gets, and now I feel comfortable that my eyes will pick up a lobster pot. So I stop worrying about things now, and you can see stuff much further off as dawn starts getting a little bit of a grip on the day. It's nice to still see light shining brightly though, to warn you off any corners or anything else, just in case it got darker or foggier. You'll see some excellent tide work along this little route at the moment. We've got a little bit of a following wind, but we're actually keeping the sails up and the engine on to try and keep me pace over the ground up as we come to the end of the old head of Kinsale, which sticks out a considerable bit into the flow of water. Anyway, luckily for me, the tide's been with us along here all the way to this lighthouse, and I like that lighthouse. It reminds me of home. But there's not a lot of wind, so as we enter out into what would be overfalls, the water's quite sleepy, which is very nice for us. And then we pass under the old head, which is bearing down on us like the ever watchful eye. Well, as luck would have it, we get a beam reach going straight away, and it's very nice too. So let's hope this will be the order of the day, because we've got some 30 miles yet still to go. That's about 35 miles, should I say, still to go. But we're making a fair pace over the ground and maybe a fair pace through the water. It's easily averaging over 5 knots, more like 5.5. And we've got 11 knots of wind, and some of that we're creating ourselves. But you've just got to keep your fingers crossed it stays, and the kettle's on. This is the second brew this morning, I think. But it's desperately required anyway, because it always seems to slip down a lot easier when you get up early. And dare I say it, everything's holding out well. We found a lovely groove and we're away. So keep this up for the next 6 hours and we'll be there.
If you put that on, I will kill you.
She don't mean it, she loves me really. Anyway, a nice groove we've got going, and it's a really comfortable ride, which will make the day go lovely. You don't need me to tell you that we haven't got much sunshine as yet, but we're fingers are crossed that we might get some. This is our second headland just about to meet us. This is called Seven Heads, and the tower on up there is called the Old Watchtower. There's an old watchtower on most of the heads along here, and the wind's just gone on the nose, and I'm not sure whether it's coming funnily around the headland or not, but I've had to stick the foresail away and put the donkey back on. Well, donkey's still on, and we're clawing our way down the coast. Now, we do know there's storms and things about, but I didn't think any of them were going to be near us today. And sometimes you get a little bit of a lull just before it pops in. Well, that's bin bags. That's a positive lull. But then, as soon as I say that's bin bags and a positive lull, I start getting a little bit more breeze. And now I'm motor sailing. And I'm doing a good turn at motor sailing. Tide's still a little bit with me as well. And we haven't got a lot of wind, but just enough to make the difference and keep us going to the next head. We've got to have a brew now because this next headland's called Galley Head, so we may as well use the galley. Tramping along the opposite way there, that's one of these. It's of the same breed anyway, but it's a newer and faster version. As he's proven there, he's probably going much faster than we are. The sun was shining on that building when I was about 10 miles away. It was a streak of light just coming through the clouds and hitting it, but it was glowing like it was something holy. On the next headland coming up, there's a outcrop of rocks there. They're called the Stags. Well, we're going between them and the land. So that's Stag Sound then. And the headland is two very far off objects. One of them's a toe and the other one's a head, so it's Toe Head. I think it's probably named that because from above it might look like a toe, but I don't know. Anyway, the order of today really is turning out to be the motor now. It looks like the last squeeze, and I don't think we can even motor sail what's left. It's completely dead out there of air, except a little bit about 3 or 4 knots, which are hitting us on the nose. That's Toe Head, with even another watchtower on the top of it. And you can actually see down to the next end of the next bit that sticks out, the next headland down there. But we are in the Stag Sound at the moment, and Stag Sound have some impressive looking rocks they do. As we make our way into Stag Sound, we've got a slight bit of wind on the nose added up to our speed, putting 9 knots on the nose, but our speed's good because it's averaging around 5 knots, and we are supposed to be pushing against the tide now. So I actually think we're now carrying a good back eddy, which is useful to know. Well, the motor's still chatting away, revving its nuts off there, and the speed has actually picked up just a little bit more, but we should be against even more current now, so I'm really pleased with this back eddy. In fact, I should write a tidal book for the south of Ireland, I think, because mine isn't telling any truths at all. That's Kedge Rocks just off Spain Head. Well, am I glad, because this is the last headland we have to pass, and then we start making our way into the bay over there. That little dot in the distance is the Fastnet Rock Lighthouse, but I bet you didn't even spot it. Anyway, there's your kedges. So named probably because they stick up like a kedge anchor. I don't know. And there's the mark. See it on the hill there, the big white one. That leads you to know where the way into Baltimore Bay is. Let's just say this fella there is called Wilson Rock, and his mates, I can't even begin to pronounce them, so I'm not going to give it a go. And on the opposite side of those odd couple of trees is that first green can, and that means more or less once you see him and he's up on the hill there, you're in the right place. As the harbour opens up in front of you, you'll spot another red and green can ahead of you. So it's quite easy to go in the right direction until you're amongst all the other boats, and then you've got to decide whether you want to anchor. Your other option is there's a small pontoon normally stuffed with a couple of boats, and you can go and raft on that if you don't fancy blowing your dinghy up. But if you do fancy blowing your dinghy up, there's plenty of place to either anchor, pick a mooring up, and there's a good space inside the little harbour to stick a dinghy as well. Well, we're fended up, and 8 hours further down the line, we're spot on our timings of where we thought we would be at this particular moment in time. It's noon at the moment, and that's exactly what we planned on getting here. So our passage plan worked out okay, although we did have more helpful tide than we thought we were going to get. And we did sail for a bit until we lost the airs, and that slowed us down. So one thing's equaled out the other, and we've made it in perfect time, which is really good. And let's not damage this nice big posh boat. Let's come alongside nice and easy and just slow ourselves down, and there's a nice man to take some lines, which is always helpful. With a bit of luck, I get the stern line on myself. Oh no, I won't, I'm drifting out now. See if I can pull myself back. There's a little bit of a current running underneath Swallow that I never expected there. I should have had a little lasso ready, but here's our man coming to help me out. I'll just ask him to stick it through so I can use it like a slip. Hey, isn't that arm nice and brown? Look at the colour I'm getting on this trip. Ooh, I do like that. But as soon as I take my t-shirt off, everything else is white with a nice crisp line where my sleeve normally goes up to. Well, as soon as we're tied up, we go ashore, and if you can see Swallow's ticky little mast there in the background, yeah, she's hiding. And there's the harbour, and this is from the little castle that's in the harbour. That's most of the moorings, the anchorages, and this is the little port that's there. Now, the port's a busy little port. There's things happening all day in there, and you can see the raft sticking out over there where the boats go. There is a dinghy pontoon in the middle of the harbour, but you'd have to get the gate number off the harbour master to use it. I don't know what he'd charge you for that, but at least it keeps your dinghy safe. So from the lovely little quaint town of Baltimore, which is riddled with a couple of nice pubs and cafes and lots to do, bon voyage!